Can't Hurt Me is a powerful story of transformation, resilience, and extreme mental toughness written by David Goggins. The book tells the story of how a man who grew up in poverty, abuse, and self-doubt transformed himself into one of the toughest endurance athletes and military warriors in the world. But more importantly, it explains the mindset that allowed him to break past the limits most people believe they have. David Goggins did not grow up with advantages. His childhood was filled with fear and violence. His father owned a skating rink where the family worked long hours, often late into the night. Behind the scenes, his father was extremely abusive. He beat David and his mother regularly and controlled every part of their lives. Living in that environment created deep emotional trauma and insecurity. At school, things were not much better. David struggled academically because of a learning disability and he faced racism and bullying. These experiences made him believe that he was weak and incapable of achieving anything meaningful. Eventually his mother gathered the courage to leave his father, and they escaped that abusive life. But the damage had already been done. David carried deep fear, anger, and insecurity with him as he grew up. Instead of overcoming these struggles immediately, he spent many years drifting without direction. After high school he joined the Air Force but failed to complete his training because of medical issues. Later he found himself working as an exterminator, spending his nights crawling under houses and spraying chemicals to kill cockroaches. During this time he gained a large amount of weight and reached nearly 300 pounds. He felt stuck in a life he hated and began to realize that if he continued this way, his entire life would be wasted. One night everything changed. While watching television, he saw a documentary about Navy SEAL training. The program showed how candidates endured brutal conditions to become elite warriors. Something inside him was awakened. He realized that these men represented everything he believed he was not. They were strong, disciplined, and mentally tough. In that moment he decided that he wanted to become one of them. But the problem was obvious. At nearly 300 pounds and with very poor fitness, he was nowhere close to meeting the requirements. Instead of letting that stop him, he made a decision that would define the rest of his life. He committed himself completely to change. Within only a few months he forced himself through an intense transformation. He ran, cycled, and exercised for hours every day while following a strict diet. Through relentless effort he lost over 100 pounds in a short period of time just so he could qualify for Navy SEAL training. When he finally arrived at SEAL training, he quickly discovered that it was even harder than he imagined. The training program known as BUD/S is famous for pushing candidates to their absolute limits. It involves freezing ocean swims, endless running, sleep deprivation, and constant physical punishment. Many strong and talented candidates quit because the pressure becomes unbearable. David faced several injuries and medical setbacks during the process. At one point he even had broken bones in his feet, but he wrapped them tightly and kept going because he refused to quit. Eventually he completed the training and became a Navy SEAL. Through this experience he discovered one of the most important lessons of his life, something he calls the 40% rule. According to this idea, when most people believe they have reached their physical or mental limit, they have actually only reached about 40% of their true potential. The brain tries to protect the body from pain and discomfort, so it tells you to stop long before you are truly finished. If you can learn to push past that mental barrier, you unlock a level of strength and endurance that most people never experience. After becoming a Navy SEAL, Goggins continued searching for new ways to test his limits. When a group of Navy SEALs died in a helicopter crash overseas, he wanted to help raise money for their families. He heard about a 100-mile ultramarathon race that raised funds for military charities. The problem was that he had almost no experience running long distances. Despite that, he signed up for the race. The experience was brutal. His body began shutting down during the run. His muscles tore, his feet were destroyed, and he suffered severe dehydration. At one point he had to stop because he could barely move. But he refused to quit. He forced himself to continue because he believed that quitting would mean surrendering to the same weak mindset he had fought so hard to escape. By the end of the race he completed the 100 miles and raised thousands of dollars for charity. That race marked the beginning of his career as an ultramarathon runner. Over the years he competed in some of the most difficult endurance races in the world, often finishing near the top despite the extreme conditions. He also set a world record for the most pull-ups completed in 24 hours after multiple failed attempts. Each failure only strengthened his determination to succeed. Throughout the book, Goggins explains several mental strategies that helped him transform his life. One of them is something he calls the accountability mirror. This technique involves facing yourself honestly and refusing to hide from your weaknesses. Instead of making excuses, you write down the truth about your failures and goals and place them somewhere you will see them every day. By confronting reality directly, you force yourself to take responsibility for improving your life. Another powerful strategy he describes is called the cookie jar. The cookie jar represents a collection of memories where you overcame difficult challenges. Whenever you feel like quitting, you mentally open the cookie jar and remember the times you succeeded despite pain or fear. These memories remind you that you are capable of doing more than you think. He also talks about the idea of callousing the mind. Just like physical calluses form on hands after repeated hard work, the mind becomes stronger when it faces difficulty repeatedly. Every time you do something uncomfortable, your mental toughness increases. Over time, challenges that once felt impossible begin to feel manageable. Another concept he explains is taking souls. This does not refer to harming others but rather gaining a psychological advantage in difficult situations. When people see that you continue pushing forward even when everything becomes painful and exhausting, it breaks their expectations. Your refusal to quit becomes a powerful mental weapon. The deeper message of the book is that suffering and struggle are not enemies. In fact, they are necessary for growth. Modern life often encourages comfort and convenience, but comfort rarely leads to greatness. True strength comes from stepping into challenges willingly and learning to operate even when things are difficult. By the end of the story, Goggins emphasizes that his life is proof that the limits most people believe in are often illusions. Your background, your failures, and your fears do not determine your future. What truly matters is your willingness to face discomfort, take responsibility for your life, and push beyond the point where most people quit. The phrase he repeats throughout his journey is simple but powerful. Stay hard. To him this means never choosing the easy path, never allowing the voice of doubt to control your decisions, and always pushing yourself to grow stronger mentally and physically. The ultimate lesson of Can't Hurt Me is that every human being has far more potential than they realize. The only thing standing between most people and greatness is the barrier created by their own mind. Once you learn to break through that barrier, you begin to discover what you are truly capable of achieving.